How come everybody knows that thing except me? Even Wakili here has said it. Am I living on Mars? Okay. Well, either way. And that's the voice of Lawrence Obonyo, advocate, and also joining us with a man who says 2 hours of sleep a night is even too much. Hussein Khalid is the CEO of Vocal Africa. He's here as well. Good morning to you both, gentlemen.
Good morning. Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Our Justice Thursday conversation is around defending the accused, legal and human rights insights into the Shakahola tragedy. We will not forget. If this is the platform on the space on which we have conversations around what happened to people and unearthing and trying to uncover really the causes for this tragedy, we'll do it, and we'll do it here. And we'll get into some of that conversation this morning. We'll give a little bit of insights into why both of you are here. But let's welcome you in true Situation Room style with today's proverb. Dennis will tell us where it's from. We'd love to get your interpretation of the same.
We are in the country that gave us Nelson Mandela, South Africa. Beautiful country, also known as a rainbow country due to its cultural diversity. And apartheid remains being one of the constant reminder of where the country has come from. Pretty a young country, 1994, independence,
Yes.
but still going through the motions and trying to be stable. But remember, it is also one of the strongest economies in Africa.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's go to the proverb. A respectful man is not a weak man. A respectful man is not a weak man. Wakili?
Yes. Asante sana.
How would you interpret that?
Thank you so much for having me this morning. My interpretation of a respectful man is not a weak man. It's more direct because at the end of the day, you look at when you accord dignity in terms of appreciating and acknowledging someone for whom they are, then it actually reveals strength more than weakness. And contrary to popular belief that you have to have a little bit of disrespect to show that machoism or something, then this proverb actually reminds you that the substratum or the formatting aspect of the ground rule for humanity is respect. So it shows how strong you are because you are in charge of your faculties, you're in charge of your tempers, emotions and everything. And above all that, you need to be respectful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Khalid, how would you interpret that?
Yeah, I think society usually mistakes respect for weakness because you find that someone who's respectful will always step down. They don't want to get into unnecessary arguments. They would like to have their space and allow people to also have their space. So in many cases, you find that people confuse that for weakness. So I think this proverb is spot on. And, it simply says, this is the bigger man. And respect on any day, when you show respect, when you receive respect, it is something that one should value. And for me, I think the proverb needs to be used more because unfortunately in modern day and era, and particularly with the younger generation, respect seems to be phasing out. So we need to do more of that, and I totally agree with it.
All right. So we're getting into a conversation this morning. It's a sticky one. We're not going to shy away from having it because we've been asking the questions, and for no reason will we be able to forget that estimated upwards of 600 people and their remains were declared missing, and that until now upwards of 400 people and their remains have been exhumed from the Shakahola Ranch in Kilifi County. The exhumation process has not ended for all intents and purposes, has not been deemed closed. The Ministry of Interior, for whatever reason, under the new leadership, has not really mentioned much about Shakahola. Since the now Deputy President was the CS for Interior, perhaps that's when we heard the most movement, at least in terms of what was happening underground, literally.
Yeah.
But till now, we had ended at the 6th stage of exhumation. We don't know if there are any more bodies underground. We don't know if there are any more remains that have yet to be found. What we do know is that there are remains of people that still lie in a makeshift morgue outside the Malindi County Hospital, and they're yet to be identified. That we do know. We also know that many people have been accused and they have been charged with very many a thing, one of them being Wana Mackenzie, who was the leader of the Good News International Church Fellowship. 637 is the number on the list, yet to identify. And no sooner than we have heard another story of another incident in the same county where, under the leadership of a church, that people have begun to starve themselves yet again. It is not something that we will bury underground, no pun intended, but that we will continue to speak about it and insist that, number one, justice is served and that something like this should not happen again. Hussein, Khalid has been on ground several times, and Wakili Obonyo is representing those who have been accused of these crimes.
Yes.
We would like to get an overview from you first, Wakili.
Yes.
What do you make of this, if possible, to put the law aside for a minute?
Yes.
What do you make of this situation with the elements that I have described of people still in a freezer,
Yes.
some people possibly still underground,
Yeah.
a trial going on at the same time,
Yes.
and we're not really hearing too much coming from the rafters in terms of what's going to be done?
Thank you so much, Ndo. First of all, what I would say is that what we're looking at from you've asked me now to look at it first of all from a legal perspective, is that going by the allegations, it's quite a saddening and it's a very sad situation to look at. It's very much telling of the security organs in this country, and I've heard several times the current Cabinet Secretary for Internal Security, Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen, talk about it. What you have mentioned is that there is a makeshift morgue and nothing has been done. So far, we are seeing a scenario where maybe my brother Khalid may speak more about this, but it seems like there is lack of capacity in terms of bringing people closer to actually getting to understand what really happened and how to go past. Now you have the bodies on the ground, you have accused persons going on in court, and then again, looking at a bigger picture, there are victims out there who are families of the people who've been accused, who are currently going through a trial, including women and children. And you have people who've been displaced, and you also have a lot of businesses that have now gone under. So you have so many nuances to this particular incident that we're now referring to as Shakahola tragedy. And then you have the upcoming of this other new, and you may call them replica, sort of quote-unquote replica situations. You saw what happened in Migori, we heard of what happened in Meru, and now there's a place called Kwabinzaro. So when you hear of this, then it's a bit telling of the security organs, it's a bit telling of our society, it's telling so much on even our stand on particularly religion, if we have to look at things from a bigger perspective. So what I would say in a nutshell, it's a very sad situation, and it actually gives like a very negative report on how the government is and is doing its own mandate in terms of protecting the citizenry. That's how I look at it.
It sounds like a movie sometimes when we talk about these things, Hussein. And when we followed the exhumation, and every day that there were people on ground, Red Cross was there, Vocal Africa was there, many organizations were there. Media was there until they locked us out. And then now we could not now actually go in and then give reports of what was going on. But any reasons as to why exhumation stopped at stage 6? Is there any idea that perhaps there could be more bodies underground? And if so, have we seen any kind of movement, or did the process stop whereby they said we've not found anything else and it can be declared that we've gotten everything?
You see, so when you go to the ground, and when we first broke this story, we had received complaints from members of families that had their kin somehow involved in the Shakahola incident. So what normally happens is you get all the witnesses who were there, and then you ask them to share with you the information that they have. And in terms of exhumation, it's where they saw people being buried.
Okay.
So they are the ones who would direct you to the graveyards. And with the Shakahola, they had all these different names, Galilee and such kinds of places. So those are the guys who would then guide the DCI to specific areas where they confirmed that there were bodies. But then, of course, the DCI also themselves would go around to just investigate within the area if there are other sites that could probably be shallow graves. So that's what happened in the first place, and that's how it's done actually. So when they stop exhuming, it basically means all the sites where they felt or they think are bodies have been exhumed, have been opened up, and that they have confirmed whether they are bodies or not. The first time when we went there, we were, present during the exhumation, and it was a horrifying sight by any standards. I think the worst I've seen. Especially when you actually see bodies of children. Children are innocent, you wonder what wrong they did. And the way they were buried, it's like head, feet. I remember one grave, there were about 8 bodies. They just exhumed, and they were just covered in a lasso or something.
And these are bodies of children?
Bodies of children. Bodies of children. At most, I think the oldest that were in that grave should have been 12 or 13. And even if you look at the numbers, the bodies that Tandu is talking about at the Malindi hospital, majority of them are children. Of course, you have women, a few men. So it's really something. And of course, the stench when they open up the graves, it's really horrifying. So it's something that even up to date, the community members who assisted the DCI in terms of digging up the graves are living with such trauma. I was down there, Kwabinzaro, less than, I think, about 7 or a week ago. And you could tell that the community is startled, like, oh no, not again. And the questions people are asking is, didn't we learn anything? Didn't we do anything to stop this? Because Kobinzaro and Shakahola is just a few kilometers apart. It seems like the remnants, those who are, the police were slow in coming in. When we raised the alarm that people are dying and all this, it took the police almost 2-3 weeks before they actually came down and, did their investigations and they cordoned the area. And by that time, there were a number of followers who had already left that area because they heard that the police are coming, and they sent a few police officers first and then more and more. So we feel that not enough was done for the first time, and these guys moved away, not very far actually. It's still on the same road, the same route, just a few kilometers away, and now we're seeing it again. And it's just so disappointing that we would have such an incident of such magnitude. Hundreds have died, and we didn't do anything to actually make sure it doesn't recur.
Hussein, just take us to the ground, because you've been there, to understand scale. The area is still an active crime scene.
So
correct?
Yes.
Shakahola 1.
It's not been closed.
It's not been closed.
It was closed earlier, but then of course now after a couple of years, it's over 2 years now since the first time.
Okay, so so now we have quote unquote Shakahola 2.
Yes.
Is it an issue because Wakili there talked about security and the disappointment that these things are happening, and unfortunately we still have security around? Is it a question of is it a vast area to do surveillance? Why is it a challenge to generally collect and gather intelligence and even follow up that there's something that is going on in this village that is not right? Why is it difficult to manage this?
Well, number one, it's truly very vast. It's, a huge chunk of land, and there's no, like, you will drive for 20-30 minutes, no makeshift houses, no signs of human settlement anywhere before you actually go to Shakahola 1, you know. And then that's the main road now, the tarmac, because this is a road, I think, it cuts through the national park all the way to Tsavo, you know, through Voi. So it's a good road, very good road. But then you drive for almost an hour, you know, inside. So like you even if you're a chief in that area, you'd be asking yourself, what am I going to do there? It's, you know, nothing. And then from the road, then you go inside, you know, like no road or whatsoever. So it's just, you can see footpaths, like, you know, people use. And then you go inside for like another 15-20 minutes on just bushland and scrubs and all that before now you come to Shakahola 1. So it's really hidden inside. Anything happening there, you wouldn't know. And we spoke to the border guys, because we said these 400 plus people must have gotten here somehow. And I said, yeah, we used to come here and we'll drop them there and we don't know where they were going to. You just see them disappear in the bushes and that's it. You know, so it's far off. You really, even if you're driving through that road, you can't even tell that there are people in there because they are far deep inside. Now, Shakahola 2, it's not, I mean, on the tarmac, it's not, you don't get to Shakahola 1. It's like 5 to 10 kilometers from Shakahola 1. But then again, it's in the interior. So from the main road, you'd have to drive. There is no way, if you're passing through the main road or you're standing there, or even if you started walking inside, you'll be able to tell that there are settlements in there because it's deep inside. You can't see it. So yes, it is hidden. And even when we were there like a week ago, the Kwabinzaro area now had been cordoned off by police, and you could see actually from where we were, you know, like graveyard or something like that, and then you move on, there's another grave maybe on that side. So I think that's what you know, the situation is like on the ground.
And these are fresh graves.
These were fresh graves, and we met one father who has since been arrested, who said his 6 children, they died and he saw them being buried. But then we spoke to a number of other victims, and you know, just from doing the tally, everyone confirming, saying, yes, my 2 children, or my wife, my this, my that, we came up with a total of 46.
46.
So far.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but, you know, this is what the police were supposed to go and confirm from the exhumation.
You see, this is a situation where, as you're saying, the border guys would drop people and would see people just
disappearing in
you
the
know,
thicket.
and even when you talk about now your client's case now, Mackenzie, it's a situation where it was reported before he was arrested, then released, and all these things are happening, one would say, in the glare of the authorities, because it had been reported. But the border guys would communicate to each other. This information would be out there.
Definitely.
And one asks the question, even as you speak to your clients and have these discussions, at what point exactly do they get attached to these individuals?
Okay.
At what point do they connect, if that is something you're willing to share? Because then I know what matters.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dennis. You see, the fact of it is that, of course, we'll try and avoid whatever is in court, because that would now fall within a different ambit. But the truth of the matter is, what is in court, the public ought to know what is in court. It is not a fact of people dying, and it may sound insensitive, but let me just clear that up. Death is not what has brought people to court. The question is whether it was induced and how, because that's basically essentially what you're looking at in court. I can see you're moving back.
No, I need you to repeat what is being brought to court, not the death.
The main thing is that Dennis and Khalid, death is not what is being dealt with in court.
You're not talking about murder or manslaughter.
Those ones are separate.
It's the cause of death. That is
it's whether it was induced or not.
Yes.
Okay.
So that is the main issue that we will be discussing in the other courts, and the other offences, especially offences relating to children, and what has been termed as radicalization. So we need to understand that even as we get information about this, it is not a question of people dying, because in every community, even where I come from, people die and we bury our dead next to our houses. There's nothing strange with that.
Okay.
So the question that is in court is, if we're talking about the numbers, whether those deaths were induced, how, and if culpability can be on certain other individuals.
Okay. We're going to go to a break in a bit, but let me ask you this question
Yes.
then, Wakili.
Yes.
Hussein talks about the fact that they would find graves with up to 8 children
Yes.
in a grave.
Yes.
And let's just, assume that we're talking about a different case here.
Yeah.
In a community, would we see 8 children dying at the same time and then they're being buried in the same grave as a natural occurrence? I'm just wondering, in what community then would that be natural then for us to say that something normal has occurred? Do we see things like that?
I understand that scenario completely, and let's call it, let's term it hypothetical at this stage.
That's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So hypothetically that happens, then the question is, there are certain assumptions that we've made that all these people died at the same time, all these people were buried at the same time, and it's not a matter of maybe someone being moved from another grave to this other place. And those are things that are being dealt with at a different stage. But again, the question would be, is there any offense to bury more than one person in one grave?
Children?
Even adults? There is none.
But there is the question of, in this republic, before you bury anyone, you need a burial certificate. You have to get that from the authorities. Then the question is...
A burial permit.
A burial permit, yes.
Yes, yes.
So here's a question where, if this was not obtained and 8 children were buried in a mass grave, the question is, how did this happen if there was no burial permit?
So Dennis, on that one has been subject to what has been discussed, but is actually in court. But because some of the people have testified, if you go through the testimony that has been there, you'll realize that death certificates were obtained. Not for all of them, but in most cases they were.
Okay.
So that's how I can leave that.
Let's do the hypothetical again, Wakili.
Yes.
And say, hypothetically,
Yes.
there is a religious organization that has a leader.
Yeah.
And according to what the congregants or the followers, as they could be, have said, is that we were told, or we've heard, that the way to get to heaven quickly or quicker was to then deny ourselves certain things. One of these, in this case, being food. Or that to make the journey to heaven a lot faster, let us help you get there. Hypothetically. Now, hypothetically, this did not happen to 1, 2, 3. We don't even have enough time, because I could count slowly and we would not get to 429.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that have been identified.
Yes.
The 637 on the list, some are still unfound.
Yes.
So is it possible that I act in a certain way under the inducement of somebody else's words who I see as a leader? It's the stuff that cults are made of. Does that happen? Is it possible?
Thank you, Ndo. I really avoid the term cult because, again, definitions are neither here nor there. But at the end of the day, when you look at this hypothetical situation, it brings us to indeed what we are trying to find out. At what point would you hold someone else responsible for actions that you take on your own? That's why when I was starting, I gave a disclaimer that it may sound insensitive, but at the end of the day, you're looking at whether it was induced by someone else or not. So right now, the courts are dealing with this question of command responsibility and issues of someone having power over the other. The question is how you can actually articulate and prove this in court. And we will not want to get into the details as to whether that is tenable or not. But if you look at the day-to-day religion, at no point, and no religion tells you you can get into heaven without dying. And again, no religion will tell you specifically doing certain things is actually wrong. Like we know in cutting across the board, prayer, fasting, and all that is actually allowable in religion. So essentially, you're looking at a situation whereby we are in an area where it has not been charted. These are uncharted waters before. Like it's a very new aspect of. And you're also looking at now our legislators trying to catch up and coming up with a bill that is now being discussed on regulation of religious organizations, something that has never been there. So to answer your question in a very brief way, it is, how would you hold someone else responsible for a decision you make on your own?
Okay.
If today my brother here chooses to go on OMAD, 1 meal a day, and another person decides that I'm going to do a 7-day dry fast, who are you going to hold to responsibility at that stage? But that again is something else. Now, on the aspect that you would say that someone else induces or makes it faster, there are other offenses that someone can be charged with. If I, let's say, starve someone to death, I kill someone in one way or the other. But that's what, I don't want to speak for the ODPP, that is what they may be grappling with as to whether this is what these persons should be charged with. Remember, I represent 92 accused persons, and of the best matters that we have here, 2 matters, one in Shanzu for radicalization and one in Mombasa for manslaughter. These are the 2 matters that touches on all of them. When you talk of murder and offenses against children, this only touch about 38 of the people we're talking about. I don't know if I've addressed the main issue that you have raised there, or there's
So, Akili,
yes.
Allow me to ask.
Yes.
And you're at liberty to tell me you can't answer this.
Yes.
Because I know I'm also walking on uncharted waters. So, given the gravity of the charges of the accused,
yes,
and you earlier said you don't want to approach this by being insensitive,
yes,
or to appear to sanitize or even trivialize the loss of those people who died in Shakahola.
Yeah,
you've had a chance to speak to Mackenzie.
Yes,
and I know you may not necessarily address yourself to the current case in court.
Yes.
But I'm just curious, because as a defense lawyer,
yes,
then what you'll be looking at
yes,
in terms of your counsel to
yes,
to Mackenzie and the rest,
yes,
is then look at technicalities of the case.
Yeah.
And like you rightly said,
yes,
was this a question of, was it induced? How did this person then end up dying?
Yeah.
When you're having your conversations with Mackenzie, I remember
yes,
a phrase that we all know, Kitawaramba.
Yes.
And at the time, the body language and the way and the manner in which he was speaking and looking at journalists he appeared very confident that you have nothing on me. That was the demeanor. And I remember the analysis that were done when Mackenzie was arrested, and each time he'll be taken to court. He appears like somebody who's very, very, either he's so disillusioned in his, and I think you said you want to call it a cult, he's so disillusioned that he's in his own space, or he's so confident, understands the legal frameworks around this case to tell us Kita Waramba. And so my question then to you is, in your conversations with him,
yes,
do you believe that he didn't lead these people to death?
Thank you, Dennis. It's a very high belief.
Does he believe?
Does he believe?
Does he believe? When you're speaking to him.
There's one thing I can tell you categorically. My clients, Mackenzie included. Let's talk of Mackenzie.
Yes.
He believes in his innocence, and personally, as a defense counsel, I also believe in his innocence. That's why I'm representing him. It is my job to represent him.
Yes.
Now, on why he is confident, that's why we're in court. That's why he was very confident, and he even stated those words. And it's not, I would not call it disillusionment. it is a fact that he knows and he believes, and we as the defense, we believe that he is innocent. Now, I understand it's very difficult from where you sit to look at this from a perspective that I am looking at it, but remember of the presumption of innocence. Remember what justice entails. When we talk of Lady Justice, we're talking about the two scales.
Yes.
And we have to give the accused persons their day in court. Their voice has to be heard, and their perspective has to be factored in, so that the judicial officer makes a decision based on, have you given me just a story, or have you given me cogent evidence to find that this person is guilty or not? Now, that is one aspect. Number two, when you look at the court of public opinion, people are met with this aspect of people died, this person was the leader there, this person was the one who brought them there, and these deaths were induced. To the general public, this is through and through. It's done and dusted. These people are guilty, and it is upon them to now prove themselves innocent. So it's an uphill task for them. But if you look at it properly, then you find that there's a bigger spectrum. There are children of these accused persons who are out there. There are children of the deceased persons who are out there. These children are suffering a great injustice by their parents being in incarceration in one way or the other. And these children are basically innocent. And they've been left or scattered across children homes or wherever they were taken to, rescue centers and all that. So this, or with relatives whom they don't know. So this is what we need to be looking at as a bigger picture, the people who are left behind. And when you look at the how, that is what we're dealing with in court. But presumption of innocence is what I would plead on. Presumption of innocence until proven otherwise.
Well, the law gives him that. Yeah. You're right. The law gives him that. Have you listened to his summons?
Yes, I have.
What do you think of his summons?
As part of what we're doing as a defense,
and not as a lawyer. I'm just saying, generally speaking, when you listen to his summons, because I have.
Yes.
What do you make of his teachings?
I think how you take in religion and summons of someone is very subjective. I would call it very subjective, because I would wake up today and tell you that the preachings of Pastor X or Sheikh X is what I don't agree with. And you see, every teaching, every extrapolation of the word is based on a religious text. So it is me reading the headline today and giving it my interpretation, you reading it, giving it your interpretation, and then there's a general consumer out there. The consumer will be left now to deal with, whom do I believe? But again, this consumer has an option of reading the word for themselves. So I've heard his sermons, I've looked at some of what he's put out there, and my take is that looking at it, the final decision rests with the consumer.
So here's a question where you will speak about your client.
Yes.
I want you to speak about the victims, because I know that you can. So here's a question where, if you speak to those who lost their loved ones, those whose loved ones are missing as you speak today, both in Shakahola 1, Shakahola 2, and you ask them in terms of who is it that you think caused this death, what do they tell you?
So, first of all, and even connecting your question with what Okari was asking, you see, there are two facts here that we have to differentiate. There's the legal understanding and there's the layman understanding. The layman understanding, someone may be absolutely guilty of an act of omission or commission. But legally, if it's not written down that these are the elements of that crime, then that person is not guilty.
True.
And in criminal law, of course, you have to prove guilt beyond reasonable doubt.
True.
So this is because we were there when we were beginning this court matter and thinking of how we would, what do you charge this guy with? can be murder. Murder because you have to be there, you have to have induced and all that.
Must be a murder weapon and all that.
So in law, there has to be a specific crime that has been, noted down either in
properly codified.
Codified, whether it's in the penal code or whatever, that says if you lead a cult and people in that cult end up fasting to death, then you are guilty of a crime called this and this, punishable. It has to be very clear. So then if there is such a law, then you can charge that person and say, here it is. This is this law, section this and this, so you're guilty of this. But that was the challenge. I remember at that time when we broke this story, the DPP came down and others all, and we're like, how? I mean, this guy has done such horrendous things, but what do you charge him with? Where is it in law that says if you preach, because you can't force someone to follow you. It's your choice. Religion is something you decide, I will follow this religion. And you see, the understanding at that time, as you're asking, because a good number of those that are being charged now, we hosted them for a number of months as Vocal Africa. And they were actually supposed, the DCI said we are assessing whether these guys would be witnesses or whether we would charge them. And then in the end, they decided to charge them because they were fasting, and they wanted to die wherever they were being kept at the safe house and all that. So then they decided, hawa watu bado wanaendelea kufast, it seems like, so they decided we will charge them. For us, in the court matter, we were representing the victims for quite a while until I just learned from counsel here, until our advocate has been missing sessions. But the fact remains that whatever happened, these families did not deserve to be in that situation. Who is guilty could be the state, who is guilty could be Mackenzie, but at the end of the day, someone must be held accountable. And for me, it's very clear. The state failed. Security officers, there is no justification. It's no excuse that this place is vast and all that. You're a government. You should have been able to tell. People were dying. People were being buried. How is it? We're not talking of 10, 20, 30 or 40. Hundreds of people. So where was the state? So these are questions that we all need to find answers to.
So whereas these things are issues of personal conviction, when we're looking at religion, when we're looking at the subjective matters of religion, what you eat, how you look, what you imbibe, those are personal convictions, what you do.
Indeed.
And at the end of the day, you making the decision is you.
Yes.
I don't know that we can make that same assertion when it comes to children.
Correct.
Under the age of 18, who science has told us, and whether you want to look at sociology, whether you want to look at psychology, or even the law itself has told us that because of their makeup, they are unable. This speaks to capacity.
They lack capacity.
They lack the capacity to make life-altering decisions on their own because of the formation of their brain, their mental capacity, and all of this.
Yes.
They lack that.
Yeah.
So, and this is where I want to focus on right now.
Yes.
That if we say you can make a decision and that you should be held responsible for the decisions that you make, no matter if somebody is blaring it in your ear with a megaphone or every day is preaching it into you still have the decision to make. Many have linked this to poverty because people have said to us that we would not find anybody linked to Shakahola who was a millionaire and was buried in the ground, for example. So that's a whole other conversation. But when we look at the children here, who decided for them? Who decided that this child will not eat for 26 days running and then they were found dead? Or that they were they were just about to die and somebody helped them along by strangling them? Because remember, but the autopsy showed that in some of these cases, children were strangled at the very end of their life. What happened to them? They didn't make a decision to pray or not pray.
You see, Ndo, as I said, we hosted a good number of those 95 or 92 now individuals for a couple of months immediately from Shakahola. And we lived with them for like 3 or 4, 5 months. And the stories we heard from them, for them, it was like you're dying in prayer. And when you die in prayer, you're going straight to heaven. So fasting wasn't starving to death. Even I remember when we went to rescue, I think one of the images, people were saying this lady was crying and saying, Yesu, Munani. If you remember such words. You see, for them, they kept telling us, Tuliambiwa. We were told that people will come, agents of Satan, to get us away from, this particular cause. We're dying to go to heaven. And they refused, even to take water or stuff like that. So for the children, and I remember a very sad story, this man went and he was looking for his child because he was told that the wife had actually gone to Shakahola and he had heard that people are dying. So he went there and he was really insisting that he wants his child. If the wife wants to stay, that's fine. Me, I want my child, And the church guards were like refusing to let him in. So he said, I'm not living here. Kama mutanipiga, munipige, nikufe and all that. So they started beating him, but then he refused to leave. He said, I'm not living here without my child. Eventually, they decided to take him to Mackenzie, according to him, his story. The guy is in Malindi. And then when he went there, Mackenzie ordered, wacha aende angalie. Now this guy is telling us wherever he was taken, there were children, in a place. The way you put kettle, alafu you have the barbed wire, the thorn fence around it. And then there were a number of children in the middle there. And they looked like they had been there for a number of days. They were so weak because they were not even the crying was so low.
Labored,
So this is what they were doing. They were starving those, and he said he just couldn't stand it, what he saw. And then he was asked is your child there? And he looked, and his child was not there. He hasn't found his child to date. But this is what the children were going through. And the mothers there would tell us that some of them, wanaona mtoto is starving and he's not dying. And she's feeling the pain, the kid is suffering. So then they just decide to make it fast for them. They would cover their mouth and lips, suffocate them so that they die, And these are stories from these women. Others would be clobbered. I think from the autopsies we've done, we've seen physical injuries, blunt force trauma and stuff like that. So this is what happened. This is what was happening. But I totally agree with you. But you see, now the question is, who do you blame? Do you blame Mackenzie or do you blame the parents? Because custody always is
with the parents. So in this case, Wakili, as you answer that, how does the law, I know you're the defense counsel, but how does the law treat coercive death by starvation?
Thank you, Dennis. If I can address your query just after dealing with the one who has raised that my brother Khalid has mentioned, there will be a lot of stories. And indeed, I cannot fault the human rights organizations and the rescue people went on the ground. But factually speaking, some of these stories remain as stories.
Okay.
Yes. So indeed, someone may say all of that, but when it comes now to what is coming up in court, and the good thing that nowadays is that with proper procedures, court proceedings are recorded, and the media is also allowed to report what has gone on in court. And you will notice that some of these stories did not make it to court, and some of these things remain factually proven in court. So this is the aspect that is very difficult for us, but it's a reality. You cannot change what is in the public opinion in terms of telling them that factually this is not correct. This never happened, and this is just someone's story. Maybe they're just making it bigger for their 15 minutes of glory or something like that. We cannot say that. Now, to answer your question, there's this question of the children. And being a children's lawyer, let me tell you honestly, the children lack capacity. The guardian or the parent has 100% responsibility on what happens or decisions that, whether positive or negative, on the child. So indeed, where you can say that offenses and atrocities that happened against the children, they are directly, if the child live with a guardian there, they are directly linkable to the parent. So the parent has to be answerable to that. And that is something that is difficult to run away from. Remember, even a child at their lower age, they cannot choose religion. Most of us, even religion was chosen for us. You don't get to that point that before you get to the age of majority that you get to choose to be Muslim, Buddhist, Christian, or anything.
Right.
So this is chosen for you. So this again goes with the parent. The parent has to bear responsibility for what the child decision that affects the child. Now on to the question that you had asked about. Sorry, could you repeat?
Also, how does the law then address itself to coercive death by starvation?
Yes. So, generally, coercive death, you would be looking at either murder or manslaughter. Manslaughter is where you never had intentions, but a death occurred. But murder is where you had the malice aforethought, you did the act, and then you intended to cause the death, indeed. So, when you look at these two, there is none that is actually codified straight to the point of denial of sustenance. That's what Khalid was talking about. It's not properly codified to say that there's this formula that now attributes to a particular offense. But again, we have very sharp and well-trained individuals from the ODPP side. They are lawyers just like we are. They know how to show and point out to the aspect of coercion, to the aspect of this death is not a naturally occurring death. This death was induced by so and so. So the aspect of looking at how you get to that death, we leave it now to the prosecution to add to the facts so that it can bring to that aspect.
So at this point, it's so laborious then to prove that. Is that the reason why then they're going for radicalization? Because they will say, okay, so the teachings and the sermons were extreme and very radical.
From a lay person, I'm calling myself right now lay because I'm not on the ODPP side. They reserve the decision to charge, and they have to look at what would give them a conviction or not. Personally, I would look at the whole of this as being very difficult, and I agree with Khalid that indeed someone has to be held to accountability. But who is this person? Is it a case where the government is trying to pass the baton to someone else that you're the one who is supposed to be responsible? Is it a case of a decision that was made by an individual for his or her own family, and then they want to blame Dennis Okari or another Dennis here? They want to say that you are the one who made me do what I did to my child, or you are the one who made me do what I did to my wife or to myself. Those are the questions that now people are grappling with on the other side. But factually speaking, atrocities that happen and offenses that happened against children, denial of their basic rights to education, and even things that talk about death, though I would wish to distance myself from the issues that my learned brother has indicated, that other people are clawed, people are asphyxiated, strangled. We are yet to see that.
All right. And this conversation obviously continues because this is an active court case. And unfortunately, there's an active Shakahola too. And folks are asking, why are we having this conversation that's in history? It's not history. It's present. It's current. And these are sadly the elements of our times.
Indeed.
We'll look into them and continue. Thank you for being here this morning, both of you.
Thank you for having us.
And for being so objective in this conversation. And always necessary for us to do. Hussein Khalid is the CEO of Vocal Africa. We've gone over time, but necessary for us to do. Lawrence Obonyo, advocate, and has been with us this morning on Justice Thursday.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.